And Adam, just go ahead and turn on your microphone. Just click that talk button once.
Here we go. Okay, welcome everybody. Hope you can all are all joining me here. Today we're discussing how to instill global citizenship in and out of the classroom. And before we get too much further, I'm just going to go through here to our next slide, which I am working on here. All right, we've started the recording. So we wanted to quickly thank our sponsors, Blackboard, Collaborate, and obviously the Learning Revolution for making this possible. And if anybody would like, I am presenting tonight from Japan, over here in southern Japan. I'll put myself on the map there. If anybody else can locate where they're at, that would be cool. Okay, we've got, looks like it's something close to Atlanta. Looks like Georgia. Oh, we've got, let's see. I know there's a few more people that are joining us, and there's a few of us here. So I will go ahead and continue here. You can check in with a chat if you want in the main room as we go. And we've got a Massachusetts there. Okay, North Carolina. Great. So instilling global citizenship in and out of the classroom. Before we begin, let me just give you a quick background about myself. I studied at, as you can see here, at Michigan Cultural Anthropology, did a master's in international affairs and development. I've been working and traveling and studying around the world for the last about 17 years and have gotten involved in a lot of nonprofit work and started my own nonprofit, as you can see there. And in doing so, I started working with schools all over the world, and the interaction that I had with students and really kind of fostering this global community has really inspired me to begin teaching. I'm currently teaching English in Japan, but I will be teaching social studies next year as a middle school teacher at an American school in Alexandria, Egypt. So very excited about that. And I've also been helping schools develop their kind of global citizenship social action programs through my website there, which is Academic Social Action Collective. So I'll give you the link later, but there's basically a lot of the programs, a lot of the platforms that I'll be describing are explained in more detail on the site, so you can take a look at that. So a lot of people are kind of curious, you know, what is this global citizenship kind of trend that we are hearing about? And it's really I'd say it's really kind of just a consciousness, a state of mind that extends beyond education. This is not just something in education. This is kind of a worldwide phenomenon, if you will, just having a more holistic view of the world. And you know, a lot of times we identify ourselves as being, you know, a resident of a certain city or a certain nationality. Global citizenship is really when you just look a scale it up a bit and realize that, you know, first and foremost, we are all, you know, global citizens. We're all earthlings. We are all connected, and once you can build from that awareness, it leads you down the road towards, you know, instilling that in students or making that a part of your business or addressing social issues and such. And one of the most important components of global citizenship is understanding our ability as individuals to come together and contribute to help make the world a better place. And this is a theme that is recurrent through any global citizenship program or project. Is more than just learning about the world, which is good in itself, but more importantly, learning how students can actually make an impact and become involved with other students around the world or address a social issue, something like that. So there's really this just kind of almost like a duty of what can we do as humans to make the world a better place. So the next question is how are we going to do that? Well, there's numerous ways which I'll go into. The first one is just looking at curriculum design in itself. And curriculum design is something that, obviously we cannot just simply create a whole new school right off the bat that's geared around global citizenship. Some new schools, some charter schools have done that. There's one in Chicago that's committed to that. But it's really about creating a curriculum, or at least creating some means to instill some of the key components of global citizenship, in this case being empathy, right, awareness, and this kind of holistic approach that we're talking about. So that's the first part. The second option is using technology that is able to connect students together across the world, and many times they are engaged in a research project, or many times they are able to do some kind of service learning or something geared towards nonprofit work. So that's a second option. And then there's more of an outreach kind of social action projects where students are directly engaged more like in their community with some sort of, it could be a nonprofit, it could be an organization that is helping raise awareness. That's a little open-ended, but again, that's another great, it's one of the three major techniques of instilling global citizenship. So why is this important? And this is the kind of thing that's good to kind of sell to the administration sometimes, that may not understand exactly what the benefits of global citizenship are. And I would say that, first and foremost, as we've learned, the world and the economy is changing very rapidly, and education is trying to kind of catch up and adapt to these changes. And instilling a more global perspective is it's a no-brainer, and it's a really effective way for us to prepare our students for this rapidly changing world, to help them get jobs, to help them make a difference in the world. And secondly, this goes hand in hand with that. This really embraces the whole 21st century learning framework that so many schools are racing to adopt. And you see a lot about collaboration, you see a lot about global connections. These go hand in hand with global citizenship. One of the great things about this model is that this is not a dry delivery of content. This is a real, as I said, collaborative, in many cases kind of project-based learning setup, where students are interacting with each other in the classroom on certain projects, and they are then connecting with students in other countries through various digital tools. And so you've got multi-layered learning there. And lastly, it instills some really useful skills to help students problem solve, to help them develop compassion, to help them develop empathy, and really collaborate together to make a difference. And there's basically three major components that kind of go into global citizenship that I've laid out here, and we'll get into those. One is communication, right? So students are not just, obviously just receiving content. They are openly communicating across a variety of platforms. Collaborating, right? They're working together, perhaps with another class perhaps with another school, perhaps with experts in the field, to help broaden their view. In creation, a lot of these projects and platforms are based around some sort of knowledge creation. Maybe it's multimedia. Maybe it's a a film that they can put on YouTube. Maybe it's some kind of digital archive that they can put up on blogs or share with the rest of their school, for example. And we have there's 4 levels of connection, and I really like this slide, which comes from Flat Connections, which is one of the platforms that I will be discussing. And this is great because it shows you that there are different levels, and this is really useful because some teachers, I myself at first was a little intimidated, like, all right, how do I just simply jump into create this kind of program? It sounds like a lot. And what's great is you can kind of ramp it up a bit. So level 1, it can be within your own class, right? So you can have students on one side of the class interacting with students on the other side of the class, pretending that they're on the other side of the world, right? You can go through and say, all right, we're going to start really basic. We can pretend that we're engaged on a blog here, and this group can write out their first. Maybe we could take let's just put out a research question. Are water bottles good for, why are water bottles bad for the environment? One team can write something, right? They can pass it over to the other team. The other team can respond, go back and forth. Right there, you've created a very basic exchange, but that's kind of the first step. And then from there, we go up to number 2, which is interconnected within the school. So then you could try, okay, Mrs. Johnson's class and Mrs. Lucy's class can do an exchange. And this can be done on a blog, okay? This can be done on a wiki space, which we'll go into. And so you're just kind of ramping it up. Students get more comfortable. They understand what's taking place, how this works. And so that's, you're just kind of easing into it. Great. And then we come up to level 3, which is managed global connection. And that's where the teacher helps set up one of these global projects and is, supervising everything and make sure that, make sure the technology works and make sure the kids are set up and they're in the right place. And that's the basic setup. And then we go up to number 4, which is student to student. Okay, so now you're letting the student in your classroom interact directly with the student in the other classroom, perhaps on Skype, perhaps through a blog or a wiki. And then lastly is kind of the top level where the students can do their thing. They can, through these different means of communication, they're able to continue the project together. They're able to, maybe it's a research project, maybe it's a debate, right? Maybe it's a content creation. They're making a movie together. So you can see, you can take it step by step, which is, to me, was good to know that it didn't have to be too drastic. And so when we look at designing a curriculum, it's possible for some of us to just kind of retool some of our annual lesson plans to include some of these themes. And so some of the most important ones are, as I said, environmental stewardship, which is making kids realize that they actually have a role in helping preserve the environment, or helping create awareness about a certain issue within the environment that affects them or that they're interested in. Holistic wellness. Again, this is it's a very broad theme, but it's something that can be easily worked into whether it's a science class, talking about the scale of the universe or whatnot, or history, social studies. There's so much that where we can kind of work in these themes. And just keeping that global perspective, keeping that broad worldview. So whenever there's a specific theme, just trying to relate it to something bigger, to something the students maybe identify with on a more broad scale. And there are different ways of doing this. As I said, this can be integrated into various pre-existing classes. It could be, history, social studies, science, anything. And it can also really kind of be a theme that is just kind of provoked throughout the year. Some schools are offering special, like Global Citizenship degrees. Some international schools have started in Yokohama International School. I know now there's a school in Bangkok, that Concordia, that is doing it, and there's one in I think Singapore and Geneva. So we are starting to see schools recognizing the importance of global citizenship. So the second, and this is, I think, will be the most applicable for many of you teachers out there, because it's hard to really go in and redesign curriculum, is these online collaboration platforms. And I'll take you through a few of these one by one. But just so you know, whether you're a science teacher, or a social studies teacher, an ESL teacher, a language arts teacher, a history teacher, there are many kind of segues, entry points into these types of projects. So keep yourself open to these ideas, because as you'll see, it's really easy to really kind of find an entry point into them. And again, if you cannot work it directly into your class, you can do it on more of kind of a club level, maybe an after-school thing, or some kind of whatever. I don't know what kind of clubs are at your schools or whatever, supplemental class. So before we get into these are just a few of the tools that are going to be used in these projects that both teacher and student will eventually be using. I think most of you are already familiar with Skype, which is wonderful for video calls from classroom to classroom is great, and the chat feature is wonderful. Wikis. So this is Wikispace. For those that aren't familiar with it, this is Wikipedia. Wikispace is basically an online forum where you can create your own small online community, and you can create separate pages within that community, and people from all over the world can contribute onto that kind of web page, as you will, and exchange information with each other, embed links, and all kinds of things. It's a wonderful tool that a lot of these projects use. A lot of you are probably familiar with blogs. Blogs are a very easy way for students around the world to collaborate together, especially when it comes to more writing focused activities. Google Docs are a fantastic tool as well to co-creation, creating documents together where they can work at the same time. They can track each other's changes. They can see who's making what edits. This is great for teachers also for assessments, to see who's doing what. Very easy to share. It's saved to the cloud, so you don't have to worry about necessarily sending links on email or anything, or sending documents. Once you have a link to the doc, it's updated immediately. Multimedia presentations are an important part of a lot of these projects, making short movies, or maybe making voice threads, or making some kind of animated little presentation. And as I mentioned, VoiceThread is a great new tool where it's basically kind of like a blog, but it's just audio. So a team, for example, a debate, you can have a team in the US give their first debate speech, and then a team in India can listen to that voice thread, and then they press record and they leave their speech. and then the American team can hear that and go through it. So that's a great tool as well, VoiceThread. So there's an important component here that we need to point out, and that is synchronous versus asynchronous. Many of you probably already know the difference, but synchronous means it's something that is happening at the same time. Right now, you and I are having a synchronous web conference. So things like Skype, obviously, conversation is as synchronous as is a video conference like this. Live blogging, where people are blogging at the same time. Wikis can be synchronous. Google Docs can be synchronous. Asynchronous is when, obviously, this is the opposite, when things are not happening at the same time. So if someone comes and watches the recording of this web conference, that would be an asynchronous interaction. Voice threads are asynchronous because they are recorded and they stop, can be picked up anytime. And the others, blogs and wikis, can also be asynchronous. If I write a blog post and I have to wait until the morning for you to respond, that's asynchronous. Some of the factors that you're going to have to keep in mind if you are working with schools in other countries, obviously, are time zones and school day schedules. So even though ideally we would like to have all synchronous interactions, I mean, it's best when students in one classroom can sit on Skype and chat with the others, and when you have that. But you have to keep in mind, if one team's in the U.S. and the other team is in Japan, for example, they're just not going to be in school at the same time. Obviously, you can try to set something up where once in a while one of the teams can maybe come late or come early and try to fix something up, but that's something to. And then the last one is there's a lot of in-person options also, and some of these platforms that I'll go into do have conferences on an annual or semi-annual basis where the different teams from schools actually can come together and collaborate together, which is great because they're able to kind of shed the technological obstacles and really just work together. So that's a lot of fun. So there's a lot of different types of interactions. So when we talk about these global projects, what are we talking about? Well, some of them, they are competing with each other, right? So one school has a team that is competing against another school. The global youth debates, for example, which I'm involved in, I've been judging. We've got teams from all over the country, and yeah, they are competing. Secondly, collaborating. A lot of these projects allow teams to come together and work together to address some social or environmental issue. And lastly, partner. So this is where one school, maybe from a more developed country, maybe is partnered with a school developed country, and they can come in and kind of assess what the needs are or address a certain issue where they're partnering with that school to help maybe a local project or some sort of nonprofit project there. All right, and I'm going to go into these are my 3 favorite platforms for these types of programs, and I'll go into them one by one. So we've got the TIG Ed, and we've got iEarn, and we've got Flat Connections. And I will provide the links on the last slide for you. Taking it global for educators is amazing. They've got a lot of, everything focuses on either global citizenship or environmental awareness or giving students an active voice in what they're experiencing and what they're learning about. And they have their own online portal where classrooms can interact, and their emphasis is, as it says here in quotes here, their emphasis is really on these transformative learning experiences. So they're one of the most established organizations addressing these types of projects. They are all free, so you don't have to worry about that. And they also have some good professional development classes, including free e-classes that you may be interested in taking a part of, because they do set you up well to be comfortable adopting any of their programs. So some of their programs are, we've got one is Deforest Action, which is obviously based on addressing deforestation. And one thing I like about these TIGED is that they bring in some experts from the field, so the students are kind of able to watch kind of guest lectures from some scientists and things like that, some video conferences, which is really cool. Anytime you can bring in a keynote speaker, and kids can ask questions and get some good back and forth. So those are fun. Global Encounters is a similar one that also works with the experts, and these are geared around different social issues each year. So then, yeah, and then another cool one down there at the bottom is Shout, and this one is geared around environmental issues, and it's done in partnership with Partners in Learning through Microsoft, so I'm sure some of you are familiar with that, and also with Smithsonian. And that's a really cool component because some of the Smithsonian scientists are a part of this. So there's a lot there to check out. These are really easy to look at on their site. So the second one here is IEARN, which stands for the International Education and Resource Network. Again, huge scale here. They have really ramped up their involvement, which is fantastic. 30,000 schools and youth organizations around the world, and they say over 2 million students a day are participating in their projects. Again, very collaborative. They have a lot of different projects to choose from. I'll go into a few of them in a second, but they also have their own web portal, which is called the IEARN Collaboration Center, where a majority of the interaction takes place. And their kind of mantra is, how will this project improve the quality of life on the planet? Right? So it's really a kind of hands-on mission there to address those key issues. All right, let's see here. We've got, these are a few of the IEARN projects. Apparently this slide didn't translate so well from PowerPoint, but we've got so the Computer Chronicles is one that it's pretty cool. Each class kind of creates it's like a newspaper, an online newspaper about whatever kind of is whatever local issues they may choose to be a part of. So we've got a few others here. The Global Issues one are the biggest projects. Those are the longer term, longer scale projects, and there's some are focused on environment, some are not. MindWorks, the second one here, is good for any kind of language arts or writing classes. This is more based on writing, self-expression, which is great. The Money Matters one is popular, really helping to instill financial literacy, which, as we know, is really important for students. And the My City and Me is a really fun way of allowing kids to learn about, students to learn about the kind of local culture of other schools and other countries, and also, in presenting their own place, they learn a lot about their local community, which is nice. And then the third one here is Flat Connections. Flat Connections is the newest of the three, and It is on a much smaller scale, but I really like it. The founder, her name is Julia Lindsay from Australia. She's been doing these sorts of projects for many years and decided to kind of launch her own platform. And it's a great model. They also offer some professional development classes that are great. I personally have done one of those and would definitely recommend it. She prepares teachers very well to jump into the classroom and either adopt one of Flat Connection's pre-existing programs or actually create their own program. So it's really up to the teacher. They also offer live conferences and summits, so schools can come together and work together, kind of under the same roof, if you will. And as you'll see, there's a wide variety of these collaborative projects, and these are supervised by, and most of these projects that we've also discussed are supervised by teachers or kind of expert advisors, right? I've been an expert advisor for some of these projects. So it is a supervised, even on these blogs or wikis, you don't have to worry that it is being supervised by teachers and adults, and there are definitely procedures in place for how to deal with inappropriate comments. Sometimes culturally inappropriate comments do come up, and sometimes it's not even purposeful. Sometimes the students don't understand. So it's really interesting to help the students understand the local cultures and know what types of lives they lead, what types of comments might be considered offensive, things like that. But on the most part, everything runs smoothly, and these kids learn so much about not only these other cultures but about their own in the end. So Flat Connections is really based on the whole idea of the flattened classroom, which is basically the idea of tearing down the walls of a classroom so that they're all able to connect with each other. And real emphasis on learn by doing. So here's a few of their projects. The Global Youth Debates, which I mentioned, these are really cool. Each year there's a different theme. So as I said, I've been judging some this year, and it's really fun to see the kids competing. I've got one school is in Georgia, and the other school, or Georgia in the USA, and the other school is in Singapore, and it's really fun to hear them debating each other through these voice threads, which is fun. Digiteen and Digitween, this is a good intro project because it deals with digital citizenship, and this is really important for so many kids that are getting into, that have an online identity and are getting involved, whether it's for research or whether it's socially or whether it's academically. They're getting involved online, so this is a fun way for them to learn about digital citizenship and do so in kind of a collaborative project like this, where they are working together and they do create a co-creation which they can then kind of present. I like the model, and this is through some of these projects where let's say it's the older kids, let's say it's like the high school kids that do this Digiteen project. When they're finished, they then do some kind of presentation or assembly to the younger grades and really explain what they've learned and how it applies to them. So that's a great way of sharing this knowledge that they've acquired. Building Bridges Tomorrow is a cute project. This is for the little tykes, as you can see here. So it's a much more, it's obviously on a much more basic level, but it's really fun to get the younger kids involved in the technology, and they really kind of gravitate towards this interaction with this other classroom. And then the kind of middle range is the Week in the Life project, which is a lot of fun. And again, this is more of just a cursory cultural study of this is how life is here, what is life like there. And just a simple comparison like this, though it may seem kind of basic to us as teachers, for an 8-year-old, a 9-year-old that have not even, they've never really been exposed to what life is like on the other side of the world, you know, just hearing like, oh my God, that's so crazy, like to get to school, you actually ride a horse to school, or, you know, you take a subway, like, you know, there's a train under the ground, that's amazing. So every little thing is pretty fascinating when you have no experience with people from these other cultures. So take a look at the Flat Connections projects as well. And so that kind of leaves us, now that we've gotten through those, you know, now what? What's the next step? And I know it can be a little daunting to try to figure out, all right, I want to do something like this, but I can't necessarily just revamp the whole curriculum. So I would say, you know, it's good to kind of start small and aim big, and so you can look for ways to start to integrate a more of a smaller scale project. It doesn't even have to be one of these, you know, pre-set projects that I've just kind of described. Really, the goal here, you know, as great as some of those platforms are, the goal is to find a way to open your students' eyes to a broader world, right? And if you can do that by, you know, maybe, I mean, I have friends, I'm in Japan, I have friends that teach in China and in America and in Brazil. So I can, for example, even start by, you know, doing a letter where my class in Japan writes a letter and they talk about everything in their life and their school and this and that, and they send it off, you know, with pictures. Now we can do it by email, and the Chinese can write back in English, you know, their response. So I mean, even something like that on a very basic level is starting to broaden the world of the view of these kids. But beyond that, I would say, you know, look for ways to connect with other classrooms. There's another site called ePals, which is great, and epals.com, where you can match up with other schools around the world in some similar kind of projects. And I would just go on, I'll post the websites, but you know, you can just kind of, if you just peruse through some of the past projects, you get a feel for what they look like, and you know, maybe you can see what might be best for your school. And again, I think there's a lot. You just have to, you know, just think about how can we integrate one of these projects into, you know, a pre-existing class. And you know, I've found that as long as the themes, as long as the, you know, the learning themes are still being addressed and the standards are still being addressed, that these projects are really a real useful way of not only presenting a whole new view of the world, but also just kind of putting the standards that you're working with into just a broader context, you know. So here are some of the links that I wanted to share. You can see here the TIG Ed is the first one, iEarn.org, flatconnections.org, and the bottom one, that is the site that I created. And as I said, if you go to my site, you will see a list of these three and a few others. You can see a lot more information there, and just kind of what the different programs are, things like that. So I will leave that up for now, and I will also open it up to if anyone has any questions. Let's see, we've got global. Okay, let's see if we've got any other comments here. All right, so we've got something here. A better world, wiki spaces. That's okay. I'll take a look at this. All right, I'll take a look at that ABC school. Yeah, Kiva is great. Kiva's a wonderful way to do that. Again, you can say, look, we are going to, as a group, pick a project and help them. And through that one project, whether it's in Burundi or El Salvador or Bhutan, the kids all of a sudden are connected with a place. They're connected with a different culture. They're connected with a social issue. And that's what I'm saying is it's really about making that one connection that just from that, it's amazing what kids can learn from a single project like that. Like, okay, we're raising money for this farmer in Burundi, or we're raising money for this school in Bhutan. And through that, you can kind of ramp that up a bit and be like, okay, well, where is El Salvador, and what issues does it face, and what history does it have, and what's the culture like? All the while, you're focused on, maybe somehow raising money to help this school or this farmer. So yeah, I would say take a look at Kiva. It is an incredible organization. I really love what they're doing. So yeah, great. Thanks for posting that ePals link there, Pishu. Let's see, our global friendships. Okay, that's another one I'll have to take a look at there. Does anyone have any questions that they would like me to address? I'm not sure if there's anything in particular. So Casper's got some students in remote places in the Pacific. Yeah, that ePals might help you connect there also. That sounds interesting. I'm leaving. I've only got another few months here in Japan, so I'm not going to start any more projects as of yet, but I'm sure there's some other schools up there. Okay, many projects are international schools. Expats more than native to the country. Okay, Maureen. Yeah, many projects are at international schools, and again, I think this is a lot of this is. Well, I think it's kind of intuitive that many of these international schools just having the expats as teachers and as parents and as administrators are, a lot more keen and a lot more aware of the benefits that this type of global awareness can have. So how to get around this? Well, I'm not sure really what your question is there. If you're you might be, if you're in the States, for example, I'm not sure where you're at, Maureen, but if you're in the States, for example, and you're engaging in some of these international, partnerships, collaboration projects, there's a good chance you will be linked up with some of these international schools. All right, in that case, there are a lot of expats, but I wouldn't worry about that because even those students that are expats, in general, have just a deeper kind of cultural awareness in that they're living in a different country and their parents are probably from different countries and whatnot. Yeah, that's good question there, Jason from Philly. the flattened classroom really, as you said, is online. Students are traveling, definitely. That's a whole nother component. There's more and more projects coming into fruition that allow students to take these kind of field trips. And I think the first step is a lot of these platforms projects that I discussed have these kind of global conferences. A lot of them are regional, right? So they might have one for the Americas, they might have one for Asia, they might have one for Europe, whatever. Where students are, as I said, are traveling in that sense. But there are more kind of service oriented trips as well. Obviously there's the whole cost issue. But if that's something that you're interested in, there's if you just look online, there's some great new programs popping up that are helping students with that in that sense. All right, Global Engage. I'll have to take a look at that. Thank you, Pyushu. These are great. Okay, Maureen was a co-manager for AWL, and I have to say I don't know what AWL is referring to here. But yeah, I mean, it's not a everything's okay, a week in the life. Okay, cool. Started online and then face to face. That's a good question. Let me think. I think, well, yeah, I mean, I know in the flat connections and also on the, was it iEarn? And then I think, was it the iEarn ones? Or the TIGED ones. Yeah, as I said, a lot of them do have these conferences, summits, where they come together. So a lot of times these teams will work together for a while online, and then they'll be working on projects, and then they'll come together and kind of present together. And again, a lot of this is up to the school. If you have some kind of interaction going with a school somewhere, there's nothing stopping you, if you can get everything approved, really, from taking a group of students somewhere. I know sometimes, there's sister city types of trips that you can put together. Those are fun. I'm actually tomorrow going up to spend the weekend with a high school group that's coming over from New Hampshire to a sister city near me, helping administer that. So that's the kind of thing that their school district put together in their town in New Hampshire. So that's another option, is to try to go through your school board and see if there's any possibility of setting up something like that, and then kind of maybe working backwards per se. Yes, Julie Lindsay. Yeah, she's great. She's done a wonderful job, and her network is definitely expanding. So it's going well. So if there's anything, sure if there's anything else. Yeah, thank you for everybody's participation, and I hope that you can take a look at some of these sites and try to find a good kind of entry point. And again, don't feel like it has to become this 12-month project. It's the kind of thing you can start small. And as I said, sometimes it's fun to just let the students kind of get used to it by connecting them with another classroom in your school or another school in your district, for example, which can be, really effective way to kind of get the communication part down, even though the real cultural differences may not be as strong. But half of it is really about learning to collaborate with other students and with other schools. And once that kind of skill and once that comfort level develops, then it becomes that much easier when the project is international, because the student realizes, look, I already know how to do this. So the fact that it's in the next class or it's in Singapore, it's really not that different. It's just it's the same interaction. So thank you to everybody that's participated, and best of luck. If anyone has any more questions, I will just pass along my email here. I'll put on the chat so you can see. You can follow me on Twitter, obviously. And yeah, if you want to add your Twitter handles, I'd always looking to follow other connected teachers. So I see Maureen's there. Anybody else wants to add, that will be great. So it's nearing 10 o'clock here in Japan. So I hope everybody has a great day over there. And okay, great. Thank you, Amy, for your help.